Now lesson number 3, chemical reactions and equation. Can you recall? Now first question in the beginning of the lesson, it is given on page number 30. Can you recall what are the types of molecules of elements and compound? The atoms of the element are of the same type. And the atoms of the compound are made up of different type. Here also, if you want, you can write it this way: are made up of same type. So the atom, what is the difference between elements and compound? The atoms of the elements are made up of same type. For example, if I take a small piece of sodium, then all the atoms of this sodium is made up of what? Na. Only one type of atom, that is Na. And the atoms of the compounds are made up of different type. For example, H2O is water. It is made up of two different atoms, that is what? Hydrogen and oxygen. Now what is meant by valency of element? Valency is a combining, which we have already studied in the second lesson. Valency is the combining capacity of an element. Now what is a requirement for writing molecular formula of different compounds? So the requirements, from here your answer will start. The requirements for writing molecular formula of different compounds are the symbols of the radicals, along with their valencies. For example, Na plus, H plus, and so on. How are the molecular formula of compound written? The molecular formula of a compound are written indicating the number of atoms, indicating the number of atoms has subscript, subscript in the formula. For example, H2O. So there are two number of hydrogen and two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen in a molecule of water. Now next we will be studying about the physical change and chemical change. So what is physical change and chemical change? For example, the transformation of ice into water. When you convert ice into water, what type of change it is? Physical change. Because here the water remains same only the state of the matter changes, that is, it changes from solid form into liquid form. Otherwise both the solid and the liquid is made up of same thing, water. Ripening of fruit is a chemical change. Why? For example, if you take a raw mango, it is green in color and it is not sweet, but when the same mango ripens up, it becomes yellow in color and it becomes sweet. Can you change the ripened mango into raw mango? No, you cannot change it. So such type of change is known as chemical change. Milk turned into curd. So milk has completely get transformed to new substance, curd. You cannot change the curd back into milk. So what type of a change it is? Chemical change. Evaporation of water. Evaporation of water is physical change. Why? Because here also only the state of matter changes, whereas the matter is same only, that is water. So from steam you have converted into water and water, not water has been converted into steam, and you can again convert steam back into water. Now what is the difference between physical change and chemical change? The first is, it is what? The change is temporary, and over here the change is permanent. Here the physical state changes, but the chemical composition remains same. Over here, the physical state may or may not change. It's not necessary that it has to change, but the chemical composition changes. For example, when I change ice into water, the physical state changes. It changes from solid form into liquid form, but I can again convert back into water into ice. So it's a temporary change. But when I change milk into curd, here you can't change curd back into milk. So it's a permanent change. The physical state changes, that is from solid to liquid. So the physical state is changing. Here it is solid state, here it is liquid state. But the chemical composition remains same. Both are water only. So the chemical composition does not change. Whereas in this, milk has a different chemical composition and a curd has a different chemical composition. This third one is, it is reversible. This change is reversible. I can change the water back into ice and ice back into water. But here it is. But here it is irreversible. I can't change the curd back into milk. So I can't change the curd back into milk. Over here, a new substance is formed. No new substance is formed. No new substance is formed. And over here, new substance is formed. For example, when I change ice into water, both are water only. So new substance are not formed. But when I change milk into curd, new substance, curd, is formed. An example you can write, changing ice into water, and over here milk changing into curd. Now in a chemical reaction or in a chemical change, the reactants react to form products. For example, C, that is carbon plus oxygen, react with each other to give carbon dioxide. So this is known as the reactant. And when they react, they give a new substance known as carbon dioxide, that is known as the product. In a chemical reaction, always the ionic bond of the reactant breaks and a new ionic bond of the product is formed. For example, when I take aqueous solution of copper sulfate and if I put some zinc dust in it, both this react to give aqueous solution of zinc sulfate plus copper. Now aqueous solution of copper sulfate reacts with zinc dust to give aqueous solution of zinc sulfate plus copper. These two are known as the reactants, and these two are known as the products over here. Over here, the ionic bond of the copper sulfate breaks, and after reaction a new ionic bond of the zinc sulfate is formed. In this, when it is written in the word form, then it is known as what? Word equation. It is known as word equation. Now the same equation, if I write using the chemical formula, for example CuSO4 plus zinc gives what? Zinc sulfate plus copper. So when I use a chemical formula, then it is said to be chemical reaction, not a chemical equation. तो इन केमिकल चेंज में रिएक्टेंट जो रहता है वो प्रोडक्ट में कन्वर्ट हो जाता है, जैसे कि C+O2 गिव्स CO2, कार्बन प्लस ऑक्सीजन गिव्स कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड. यहाँ पे जो स्टार्टिंग में जो रहता है एरो के ये साइड में रहता है उसको रिएक्टेंट बोलता है, और ये रिएक्ट होकर नया सब्सटेंस फॉर्म होता है उसको प्रोडक्ट बोलता है. हमेशा एक रिएक्शन में केमिकल चेंज में आयोनिक बॉन्ड जो रहता है, रिएक्टेंट का आयोनिक बॉन्ड ब्रेक होता है और प्रोडक्ट बनता है, तो न्यू आयोनिक बॉन्ड फॉर्म होता है. जैसे कि एक्वस सॉल्यूशन ऑफ कॉपर सल्फेट और जिंक डस्ट लिया तो अपन को क्या मिलता है? एक्वस सॉल्यूशन ऑफ जिंक सल्फेट प्लस कॉपर. यहाँ पे आयोनिक बॉन्ड ऑफ कॉपर सल्फेट ब्रेक होता है और रिएक्शन के बाद न्यू आयोनिक बॉन्ड ऑफ जिंक सल्फेट फॉर्म होता है. इन दोनों को रिएक्टेंट बोलता है, और एरो के बाद जो लिखा रहता है रिएक्शन के बाद जो रहता है उसको प्रोडक्ट बोलता है. और जब भी अपन वर्ड्स यूज़ करते हैं, स्पेलिंग्स में लिखता है तो उसको क्या बोलता है? वर्ड इक्वेशन. तो वर्ड्स यूज़ करता है रिएक्शन लिखते वक्त, उसको बोलते हैं वर्ड इक्वेशन. और वही इक्वेशन अगर केमिकल फॉर्मूला यूज़ करते हैं, जैसा कि कॉपर सल्फेट को CuSO4, जिंक डस्ट को Zn, एक्वस सॉल्यूशन ऑफ जिंक सल्फेट को ZnSO4 और कॉपर को Cu लिखते हैं तो उसको बोलते हैं केमिकल इक्वेशन. जब भी केमिकल फार्मूला यूज़ करता है तो उसको केमिकल इक्वेशन बोलता है, जब भी वर्ड्स यूज़ करता है तो उसको वर्ड इक्वेशन बोलता है. स्टार्टिंग में एरो से पहले, रिएक्शन के पहले जो रहता है उसको रिएक्टेंट्स बोलता है, और रिएक्शन के बाद जो फॉर्म होता है उसको प्रोडक्ट्स बोलते हैं. Now, what are the rules followed by while writing a chemical equation? So, equation लिखते हुए कौन सा rules follow करता है? Reactant जो रहता है वो left hand side में लिखा जाता है, और product जो रहता है वो arrow का right hand side में लिखा जाता है. So, the reactant, these two are known as reactant, and these two are known as a product. So reactant are always written on the left hand side, and the products are always written on the right hand side of the arrow. Arrow should always point from the reactant towards the product. तो towards the product side में रहना चाहिए arrow का ये. और अगर समझो दो या if there are two or more than two reactants or products, then it is they are separated by what? Plus sign over here. तो अगर दो या दो से ज़्यादा रिएक्टेंट या दो या दो से ज़्यादा प्रोडक्ट रहेगा तो दोनों को किससे सेपरेट करने का? प्लस साइन से सेपरेट करने का. अभी टू मेक दिस रिएक्शन मोर इन्फॉर्मेटिव, तो सॉलिड फॉर्म में है कि गैसियस फॉर्म में है. सो वेदर दे आर इन सॉलिड फॉर्म और गैसियस फॉर्म और लिक्विड फॉर्म, then they are also indicated in the reaction. Solid is indicated by small s, gaseous in small letter G, and liquid in small letter L, which is written after the formula. Formula के बाद लिखा जाता है, ब्रैकेट के अंदर लिखा जाता है. और अगर समझो if the reactant or the product is mixed in water, then we say it is an aqueous solution. Aqueous solution, which is written as AQ. Now if the product is in gaseous form, then it is written in the product form. Reactant में नहीं, product में अगर gaseous form में रहता है तो we write it has arrow which is pointing upward. Over here, this is an aqueous form, and this is solid. This is also aqueous. And this is solid. Now if sometimes heat has to be supplied, reaction होता नहीं है तो reaction नहीं होता है तो we supply heat. So अगर heat उसको heat किया जाता है reactant को, तो how it is indicated in the reaction, just above the arrow we put a triangle shape. So this triangle indicates that the reactant has been heated. So this is in solid form. It gives CaO, which is in solid form, plus carbon dioxide. Now carbon dioxide gas it is in the product side, so we indicate it has arrow. We can also write G. It's not necessary that you have to put an arrow, but in the product form, if it is in gaseous form, you can either put an arrow which is pointing upwards, or G you can write inside the bracket. Sometimes in the reaction heat is formed. Heat is not supplied, but it is formed over here. For example, in this, the first reaction, here heat is formed. So it is written as so in this reaction heat is formed. So after writing all the product, you write down heat over here. So from this what we come to know, that heat is formed in this reaction. Sometime for the reactant to react, we have to put pressure or increase the temperature, or sometime we use a catalyst, and so on. Now all this information is given just above. You have to write all this information above or below the arrow. For example, hydrogenation of vegetable oil. So vegetable oil, it is in liquid form, plus hydrogenation of vegetable oil. So H2, which is in gaseous form, it gives what? Vanaspati ghee, which is in solid form. So whatever information is there, now this reaction takes place at 60 degrees Celsius, so it is written either above or below, and in the presence of nickel catalyst. So the extra information, जैसे कि ये कौन से टेम्परेचर में रिएक्शन होता है 60 डिग्री सेल्सियस में, और कौन सा कैटलिस्ट के प्रेजेंस में होता है निकल कैटलिस्ट, तो ये दोनों इन्फॉर्मेशन एरो का ऊपर या नीचे लिखा जा सकता है. Now last, but the last important thing is what? Sometime reaction takes place either in concentrated or dilute acid, so that information also you have to write down. So for example, copper, when reacts with nitric acid, that is concentrated nitric acid, that is in aqueous form, which is written just below the formula in bracket. It gives what? CuNO3 twice, CuNO3 twice, which is in aqueous state, plus reddish gas is liberated, which is poisonous, that is reddish gas of nitrogen dioxide, which is gas, so it is written in arrow pointing upward, or you can also write G over there. So 2NO2 plus 2H2O, which is in liquid form. So when copper reacts with concentrated sulfuric acid, it gives what? Copper nitrate plus nitrogen dioxide, which is reddish color gas, and it is poisonous, plus water. Now if supposing copper reacts with dilute nitric acid, then what is formed? Same thing is formed, but it will CuNO3 twice aqueous, and not nitrogen dioxide but a nitrogen oxide is formed, 2NO. So nitrogen oxide gas is formed plus water, 4H2O. तो जब ये कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड नाइट्रिक एसिड के साथ कॉपर रिएक्ट करता है तो क्या फॉर्म होता है? कॉपर नाइट्रेट और रेडिश कलर गैस विच इज़ पॉइजनस नाइट्रोजन डाइऑक्साइड फॉर्म होता है और वाटर. और अगर डाइल्यूट नाइट्रिक एसिड के साथ रिएक्ट करता है तो कॉपर रिएक्ट्स टू फॉर्म कॉपर नाइट्रेट प्लस नाइट्रोजन ऑक्साइड गैस इज फॉर्म्ड प्लस वाटर. Now by mistake I had said concentrated sulfuric acid. It's not concentrated sulfuric acid, it is concentrated nitric acid. On page number 33, try this. They have asked some questions and what experiment you are supposed to do. So they have taken a conical flask, and in the conical flask they have taken sodium chloride. So this is sodium chloride solution. This is conical flask, and inside the conical flask there is a test tube which is filled with silver nitrate. So inside the test tube, inside the conical flask there is a test tube, and inside the test tube what is there? Silver nitrate solution. And this conical flask is placed on a balance. Weighing balance is there. And what is the weight of this full thing? It is given over there. It's something you can 300.23 grams. So the weight of the conical flask and sodium chloride and silver nitrate solution along with the test tube weighs how much? 300.23 gram. Now this two is not reacting, they are not mixed with each other, they have kept separately with each other. Now just tilt the conical flask. What happens? All the solution which was there in the test tube as well as in the conical flask react with each other, and reaction takes place. And after the reaction, some solution or some precipitate was formed. Again you weigh on a balance. What do you find? There is no change in the weight of the after the reaction. Even before the reaction and after the reaction the weight remains same. So what they have taken in the conical flask के अंदर क्या लिया? सोडियम क्लोराइड सोल्यूशन. टेस्ट ट्यूब के अंदर क्या लिया? सिल्वर नाइट्रेट सोल्यूशन. और दोनों को conical flask, सिल्वर नाइट्रेट और सोडियम क्लोराइड सब को वेइंग बैलेंस के ऊपर रखा. उनका वेट समझो 300.23 ग्राम है. So before the reaction, अभी reaction नहीं हुआ, they are not mixed together, so no reaction has taken place. So before the reaction, the weight was 300.23 gram. Now after you tilt the conical flask, जब ये conical flask को उल्टा करते हैं तो दोनों mix हो जाता है और reaction होता है, और reaction होने के बाद वेट वापस दिखा जाता है. तो वेट क्या होता है? चेंजेस होता ही नहीं है. दैट मीन्स व्हाट दिस एक्सपेरिमेंट प्रूव दैट बिफोर द रिएक्शन एंड आफ्टर द रिएक्शन देयर इज नो चेंज इन द वेट. सो व्हाट चेंज डू यू फाइंड? व्हाट रिएक्शन ओवर हियर? व्हाट चेंज इट इज? फिजिकल और केमिकल? इट इज अ केमिकल चेंज. Did any insoluble substance was formed? Yes, a insoluble substance was formed. What was that? A white precipitate of silver chloride was formed. Was there any change in the weight when you saw before the reaction and after the reaction? The weight remains almost the same. So there is no change in the weight. So weight में कोई changes नहीं आता. If I write this reaction, what I get? Sodium chloride, that is NaCl aqueous solution, plus silver nitrate, that is AgNO3, that is also aqueous. After reaction, what is formed? Now remember, last year you had studied that in a compound the first one is always plus and the second one is minus. That is, sodium is positive charge and chloride is negative charge, and here also silver is positive and nitrate is negative. So always the positive combines with the negative. So what will be formed? NaNO3. What is formed? NaNO3 plus what is formed? Ag, first you have to write the plus sign, AgCl plus AgCl, and this is a white precipitate of silver chloride. So white precipitate of silver chloride is formed. So all are aqueous, only AgCl is white precipitate, that's why I have shown an arrow pointing downward. So इस reaction, इस experiment से क्या पता चला कि reaction के पहले और reaction के बाद दोनों का weight में कोई changes नहीं होता है, और reaction के बाद क्या form होता है, एक white precipitate of silver chloride is formed. So white precipitate of silver chloride is formed. Now this silver nitrate is used in water zinc. It is also used for developing photographic film, and because of its antiseptic property, it is also used in antiseptic property. It is used to treat wounds and burns. It is also used for electroplating. So silver nitrate is also used in water zinc, developing photographic film, and because of due to its antiseptic property, it is used to treat wounds and burns. Now what is a balanced chemical reaction? What is the meaning of balanced chemical reaction? If number of atoms in the reactant, the number of atoms in the reactants is equal to number of atoms of products, then we say that the reaction is balanced. So अगर number of atoms reactants का और number of atoms product का दोनों भी equal है, then we say that it is a balanced equation. I'll just explain you what is the meaning of that. Now what are the atoms which are used in this? Sodium, chloride, sodium is there, chloride is there, silver is there, nitrogen is there, silver, nitrogen and oxygen. So these are the things which are there in this reaction. Now how many sodium in the reactants? Reactant में कितना सोडियम है? सिर्फ एक ही सोडियम है. Here there is no number, here also there is no number. So only one sodium is there. Then how many chloride is there? Same way for chloride, here also there is no number, here also there is no number. So only one chloride is there. Silver, only one. नाइट्रोजन ओनली वन. यहाँ पे भी कोई नंबर रहेगा तो वो सबके लिए इंक्लूडेड होता है. यहाँ कोई नंबर नहीं है तो सिर्फ एक ही नाइट्रोजन है. ऑक्सीजन कितना है? 3 है. सो नाइट्रोजन इज 1 एंड ऑक्सीजन इज 3. So in the reactant, so number of atoms of sodium is 1, number of atoms of chlorine is 1, number of atoms of silver is 1, number of atoms of nitrogen is 1, but the number of atoms of oxygen is 3. You can come to know from here. In the products, number of atoms of sodium, how many sodium is there? Only 1 is there. 1. Now how many number of nitrogen, how many is there? Only 1. So number of nitrogen is 1. Number of oxygen is how much? 3. Number of silver, number of atoms of silver is how much? Only 1, and number of chloride is also 1. So if you compare the number of atoms of the reactants and the number of atoms of the products, both are equal. When the number of atoms of the reactant is equal to the number of atoms of the product, then we say it is a balanced equation. I will show you one more example of balanced equation. Now in the exams, don't neglect whatever the questions are given in the middle of the chapters and all. Those are very, very important. They ask such questions for 5 marks and all. Each question carries 1 mark. Most of the things will be done and given. Only the question answers you have to give. They may ask you these 3 questions. Write down the reaction, so you should know the reaction, and what are the uses of silver nitrate. So this way totally 5 marks is there for this such type of questions. So don't neglect all this. Just see the experiment, it's not so tough. If you go through the diagram, you'll come to know easily what it is. So what type of change it is? Chemical change. Did any insoluble substance was formed? Yes, white precipitate of silver chloride was formed. White precipitate of silver chloride was formed. Was there any change in the weight? If you saw, there was no change in the weight. Before the reaction also it was 300.23 gram, and after the reaction also it was 300.23 gram. So it is a weight, there is no change. So there is no change in the weight. ये 3 क्वेश्चन आंसर करते तो 3 मार्क मिल जाता है. रिएक्शन लिखेगा तो और 1 मार्क, यूसेज लिखेगा तो और 1 मार्क. So it's very simple. Don't neglect all such questions.